Welcome to Spokane Talks, where you find news, views, and conversation that includes respect for opinions, facts, and diversity. Spokane Talks is brought to you in part by McNeice Wheeler Attorneys and Rana Paint.
Welcome to Spokane Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice. On this episode, we'll start out with Startup Spokane, Barili Cellars, followed by medical marijuana discussion on better health, and Judith Spitzer on She Says to discuss the current climate in the press and media. Thanks for joining us this week.
See you tomorrow night, and thanks again for taking care of the painting.
I got this.
Bye.
Weekends are made for painting. Let the experts at Rana Paint take care of you.
Hi. This looks amazing.
Rana Paint, over 80 years of quality, tradition, and trust. Find it in every can.
Welcome to Startup Spokane on Spokane Talks Media. I'm your host, Steve Trabin. Joining me today is Russ Feist, co-owner of Barili Cellars, a boutique winery in downtown Spokane. Russ, thanks for joining me today. And let's start by telling people a little bit about what Barili Cellars is, kind of the size and what you guys do.
Sure. Thanks, Steve. We are a boutique winery downtown, 608 West 2nd, and we've been open now since 2007, and continuing going strong. We'll be in our 10th year anniversary. Will be this spring in April, so we'll have a nice cool spring release.
Yeah, and this has been a lifestyle business based on passion. And you and your partner, Gary Hustad, and your wives, you all have day jobs. And
yes.
So talk about that, how you're doing this.
Yes, it is. It is a side job, side hobby, some people like to think about it, but it really is work. So I work at Avista, and Gary owns his own business at Custom Auto Body. Mm-hmm. This is something we do on the side, but it is also a business. When we do 650 cases, that's a lot of wine. You have to sell it, you have to produce it, you have to make it, and then selling, of course, is sometimes a challenging part.
Yeah, and for context, when you started the winery back in 2007, there were about 500 wineries in the state of Washington, and today,
correct,
I think
around 950.
Yeah, so pretty much doubled in size.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of competition in the space. And
yes.
in Spokane, how many wineries?
21 wineries currently.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, with, like you're saying, a lot of competition coming in from Walla Walla.
Yep.
Starting up their secondary wineries.
Yeah.
Secondary locations.
And so you've been very deliberate with Barili Cellars on kind of your model and how you're unique and how you're going to play in the space, because you guys have day jobs. You're not open every day. You don't have employees. So
Correct.
Talk a little bit about
Correct.
that.
Yeah, so we wanted to try to stay with the boutique feel, high custom, high touch, family oriented. I think although almost anybody can say that because most of the wineries are family owned, but we want to stay in that sort of mid-range as far as pricing goes. So you're looking at whites in at about 15. Our top wine is sitting around $27, $30, somewhere in that category.
So very affordable, and
yes.
and I know
and approachable.
And from personal experience, having been with you for part of the journey, that you spend a lot of time helping people understand the process, which I think is really valuable.
Yes.
And you sell the wine at your retail location,
yes.
as well as in some other places.
Yes, so we self-distribute. Mm-hmm. So we go with mainly places like, say, the Field House has our wine, Mamma Mia's, Steelhead, Left Bank Wine Bar, who else? A couple different breweries, Black Label, Left Bank, and 12 String.
Good. Well, we're having a great conversation with Russ Feist here on Startup Spokane on Spokane Talks Media. We'll see you right after the break.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. McNeice Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeice Wheeler Attorneys.
Welcome back to Startup Spokane on Spokane Talks Media. We're having a great conversation with Russ Feist of Barili Cellars. And Russ, as we were going to break, we were talking about kind of the wine scene in Spokane. And let's talk about the Cork District, which is really kind of this wrapper around it. Spend a couple of seconds on that.
Yeah. So the Cork District came about. It's sort of morphed from our Spokane Winery Association, and we realized that we needed something bigger than just a winery association. So we now bring in different venues, as in like hotels, also some microbrews and some cideries.
Yeah, and it's really all about putting a wrapper around the wine scene as a destination in the downtown area and all of Spokane, right?
Yeah, and all of Spokane.
And this is what a magical time of year to be talking about wine, because as we get into the holiday season, we really want to bring people into our incredible downtown core and let them experience things, the lights, the carriage rides.
Yes.
But the wineries play a big part of that, and Barili does as well. So talk a little bit about how you play in the holiday season with that.
Sure. So for the most part, all of us are open. So it's really sort of a walking experience. You don't have to drive from place to place to place. And like you mentioned, you can catch a carriage ride, which would be kind of cool. You also have art. Almost in every single place has art up. And we'll have specials, 20% off this, 5% off that, 50%. And also maybe some, maybe a little mulled spice wine going on. We do that down in the winery. Kind of give it that Christmas feel, the holiday feel. And music. A lot of folks have music.
Yeah.
So we want to try to get into not just here, come in and try our wine, but kind of have some fun and experience some different things.
Yeah, and all the wineries and other venues are participating during this time of the season, so it really does allow people to come down and just create an experience for themselves and do some shopping at the same time.
Yes.
So Barili Cellars, tell them a little bit about your wine real quick, and then we'll...
Sure. So Barili Cellars, we've got about 8 different varietals at the moment, blends, if you will, as well. And we just try to make decent wine. Not only decent wine, but good wine. So I guess you can say everybody wants to try that. But as a boutique winery, you really want to try to distinguish yourself and
set yourself apart. And I think Barili Cellars does that quite well. I hope you'll stop by and visit them this holiday season. Thanks for joining us on Startup Spokane on Spokane Talks Media.
Next up on Better Health, Lani Madsen will sit down for a discussion about medical marijuana.
Hi, this is Larry at River Ridge Hardware. Just wanted the opportunity to show you a little bit about our Christmas. We have Christmas tree stands. We have ornaments that you won't find anywhere else. We have the small Christmas lights. We have the tube lights that you can run up and down. We also have a massive amount of snow shovels. Come on out and visit River Ridge Hardware.
I'm here with Tracy Sirrine from PatientsForPatientsMedical.com, and her company assists medical marijuana patients. And Tracy, tell us a little bit about the problems that have been caused for your patients by the legalization of recreational marijuana.
Well, it begins with a registry that is optional, but actually limits your ability to grow and produce enough cannabis to make the products you may need to help your condition. That's where it really begins. And then it also is followed up by our lack of regulation on cannabis products in general in Washington. It's not just patients who need to have their cannabis tested for pesticides and things like that. I think that the general public needs and deserves that as well. In some situations, we find that pesticides or contaminated cannabis causes health problems. It's actually turning a recreational user into a patient, and that was not the goal. So what we need to see happen is we need to see House or Senate Bill 5052 really looked at and fixed. It's a Patient Protection Act that is not protecting our patients. It's actually harming them.
And I understand you have patients who have been pretty much shut out of getting access to medicine that's been helping them.
Absolutely. We have a lot of patients who have been shut out. And with the new rules for them even getting their medical cannabis license, some of them just cannot comply with those new rules. They are so strict. And that's why a lot of places that used to help patients get their authorizations have gone away because of the new rules and regulations to start with. That's all in language in 5052. And so doctors' hands are tied, Patients have nowhere to turn. They can't turn to each other anymore because it's criminal to share your medication with another patient. So we really need for our representatives and our state leaders to take a good look at what the Patient Protection Act is actually doing.
Okay, and one of the issues with that would be just recognizing that there is great value in some of the medicinal uses of marijuana, like many other plant-based medicines, but they need to be safe as well as effective.
Yes.
And monitored so that people can trust the sources.
Yes, and research. There are a lot of different cannabinoids other than just THC and CBD that are medically beneficial.
I think that's something we should get our School of Pharmacy into and be taking a look at getting that research going.
We should. If we have the access to it here as far as being recreational legal, we should definitely be doing some experiments to make sure we benefit from that.
Okay, well, thank you, Tracy Sirrine from patientsforpatientsmedical.com.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. McNeice Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeice Wheeler Attorneys.
Okay, and Tracy Sirrine from Patients for Patients Medical, and a question follow-up on how this works in with our problems with opiates and opioids, and where can medical marijuana fit into the solution?
Oftentimes, medical cannabis can be a solution to a problem that somebody may have for taking opiates for a long period of time. Where the problem tends to butt heads is when you're under a pain management contract and you want to try something natural like medical cannabis. That substance stays in your system for 30 days. If you've signed a contract with your doctor and you have agreed not to try any other substances or test positive for those, and you try medical cannabis just one time and it stays in your system, and you see your doctor in between the time that has exited your system, they could potentially fire you as a patient. Instead of asking you, did it help? Asking you, was it easier? Did you take less pain medication that day? What are some of the solutions that we can bring to the table with the doctors when we're talking about pain management? And I think cannabis has a great potential in the many different forms that we can use it. And it's not about getting high, it's about getting better and a better quality of life.
It's kind of getting back to that lack of research. We've built such a wall around
stigma
and a stigma on what is now still a federal Schedule I drug, to really be able to know, is it going to help? And it sounds like the legislative action is going to be your next push.
Absolutely. And, if we have medical schools who have that interest in researching it in a state where it is recognized recreationally and medical, what better opportunity? We have some of the finest medical training institutes here in Washington State.
And here in Spokane especially.
And right here in Spokane, and we should be leading the way with cannabis research.
Okay, well, that will be a challenge. I'll expect that you'll be charging down there to
I
have
absolutely
a chat.
will. I will be in Olympia this year, as I am every year.
Okay, but right at this point, it's not on the legislators' agenda.
It's not on their agenda. It doesn't mean the discussion hasn't been opened with the Liquor Control Board and the Department of Health. And we have asked even Governor Inslee to take a look at the fact that there are no medical compliant products on the shelf, and what can we do to help that?
Okay, so there's the problem, and we'll look forward to seeing how the solution comes about.
Thank you.
Next up on She Says, Stephanie Regalado will have an opportunity to sit down with Judith Spitzer, longtime journalist, to discuss her most compelling stories, as well as the current state of the press and media.
Hi, this is Larry at River Ridge Hardware. Just wanted the opportunity to show you a little bit about our Christmas. We have Christmas tree stands. We have ornaments that you won't find anywhere else. We have the small Christmas lights. We have the tube lights that you can run up and down. We also have a massive amount of snow shovels. Come on out and visit River Ridge Hardware.
Hello and welcome to She Says. I'm your host, Stephanie Regalado. My guest, Judith Spitzer, joining me today, has been a journalist since 1989. So it's a significant amount of time.
Years, yes.
Good 30 years. You've seen a lot over the years. We were talking earlier on another podcast about covering domestic violence early on and there being no numbers and that wasn't tracked.
Right.
And then to this week where we have a historic week for women with the elections, more women than ever.
I was so glad, and I know so many other people who are so happy about that piece of the election, that that many women will be helping to run the country.
Absolutely. It's so important. And when you talk about having those, the masculine energy in leadership and then the feminine energy in leadership and how well those can work together.
Right.
And how beneficial and balanced.
And I think women bring different skills to the table than men and have a different viewpoint. And there was such a diverse group that moved into leadership positions in this election.
Yeah, it wasn't even just women.
Right.
It was women of color.
Right, women of color.
So much diversity.
A Muslim woman, and
a young woman, 29, in New York City.
Right, yeah, Latina.
Mm-hmm. And a Latina. A Native American woman.
Right.
And we talked about, there's just so many.
And there were so
vibrancy.
many, I think there were 7 governorships that were turned over to, I don't know, maybe it was Democrats rather than women. But, it's changed. It's changing the face of politics.
Mm-hmm. What does that make you feel for a female journalist, been in the business for a long time, seeing how there's been all these changes? How does that make you feel, your outlook on...
it absolutely makes me feel hopeful and grateful to be living in this time. Mm-hmm. And I've seen such enormous changes, not as much as I would like to see, but at least now we do have numbers counting domestic violence victims. We are starting to get numbers of missing and murdered Indigenous women.
Yes.
I just see signs of things changing.
Absolutely. And you wrote an amazing article in the November issue of Spokane Quarterly Living magazine about murdered and missing Indigenous women.
Right.
That is just really shocking.
It is shocking to know that many women can go missing and murdered and nobody raises their voice.
And when we say that many, it could be well over 4,000.
Oh.
They don't even know there are no numbers.
Right.
And it just seems, someone made a comment a while ago about, when children were being taken away at the border, and then some of the children were missing or lost, so
they're still missing.
They're still
missing their parent. They're still in cages.
Right, and they're like, I can watch a UPS truck deliver my package to my home from across the country, but I can't. We can lose a child, or women can go missing, and we have no idea. They're not even counted. It's not even banked. Right. We have to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back to continue this discussion. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to that message from our sponsors. We appreciate them very much. Here with Judith Spitzer. I'm Stephanie Regalado. Judith, you write a column for Spokane Quarterly Living magazine. You write for the Journal of Business. You write for the Spokesman. You've written all over the country. But you write a column for me called Hot Topic.
Right.
They're always very compelling and eye-opening, and I appreciate that very much. What are 2 that stick out to you most?
I did one story on the long-term effects of childhood trauma that really drew a lot of response from people. And I think people are finally realizing that all of the cultural issues that we have, including shootings, mass shootings, one that happened this morning, just unbelievable how common they are. A lot of those things, be it physical pain or other issues, started in childhood with trauma and go throughout someone's life.
Well, and it changes the
It changes
development of
who
your brain.
people are.
And it does change. It's not just the guru tactic of choosing happiness or forgetting your childhood or growing out of it or whatever, because you've absolutely been altered.
Right, and it affects your mental health. And mental health is something else I've written a lot about, the mental health on college campuses, because there's a definite need for more mental health people to help college kids going through depression and all kinds of things. And it's such a stigma to even say that you're going to treatment or you're going through therapy.
Well, people have a much easier time saying they have a life coach than they do saying they have a counselor.
Right.
And counseling is interpersonal development, and we all have stuff we can work on.
And there's so much depression from kids from kids, little kids in grade school.
Well, the suicide rates in our own high school system and middle school system here in the last few years has been astonishing.
Yeah, it is. It's just, and there are more mental health facilities, and I see that increasing the numbers.
That's definitely
but
a positive.
It's very needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the work you do. I recommend people tune into your columns because they're always enlightening and eye-opening. Thank you, Judith.
Stephanie.
Thanks for joining us on She Says.
Cindy Hall is a freelance columnist and correspondent for the Spokesman Review and author of War Bonds, Love Stories from the Greatest Generation. The view from her porch is usually sunny.
I enjoy shopping about as much as I like having root canal. But recently I had to go to the mall to look for a special occasion outfit because I had a special occasion coming up and nothing to wear. My approach is simple and direct. I go through every rack, haul the likeliest looking garments back to the changing room, and work my way through the pile. Because I don't like going back and forth, I draped approximately 30 pounds worth of special occasion wear over my arm. I won't do that again because I couldn't feel my left arm for hours afterward. In addition to physical discomfort, shopping offers plenty of opportunities for mental and emotional discomfort as well. Take, for example, men who shop. There are two kinds of men who shop: mopers and meddlers. The mopers are easy to spot. They're planted on benches, morosely scrolling through their phone. Or they're planted outside changing rooms, clutching purses that are obviously not their own. I love mopers. I'm one of them, but I shop and mope at the same time. The meddlers, however, puzzle me. These are the guys who look through the racks with their gal friends and say things like, "You look great in red," or I think that would look better with a paisley scarf. I sometimes envy the ladies who bring Sherpas with them to haul the load, but my husband knows my misery does not enjoy company. The real fun began when I got to the changing room and started working my way through the stack of clothes. Things that look great on the hangers inexplicably sagged or bagged or clung to me in places only my husband should cling to me. I finally worked my way to the bottom of the pile and pulled out this tight black sheath with a leopard print panel in the middle. I didn't realize it had two huge pockets that flared at the hips and gigantic shoulder pads. "Mein Gott in Himmel," I hollered, looking at myself in the mirror. Apparently, I channeled my German great-grandmother. My mother says her grandmother was praying when she uttered that phrase, but I have to admit I was swearing. And when you start swearing in German, it's time to go home. I didn't find a special occasion outfit, but I did find 3 black shirts that go great with my 3 pairs of black pants and my 3 black skirts. And it also perfectly matched my black post-shopping mood. And that's the view from my front porch.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Spokane Talks, where you find news, views, and conversation. See you next week.
See you tomorrow night, and thanks again for taking care of the painting.
I got this.
Bye.
Weekends are made for painting. Let the experts at Rada Paint take care of you.
Hi. This looks amazing.
Rada Paint, over 80 years of quality, tradition, and trust. Find it in every can.
Spokane Talks is about you. Give us your feedback and comments at info@SpokaneTalksMedia.com. Spokane Talks is brought to you in part by McNeice Wheeler Attorneys and Rada Paint. We'll be back next week with additional news, views, and conversations. Please join us. So long for now.